Hey YouTube, this is Will from Brett Design. Today we're going to be looking at Parallax and how we can create a parallax effect in Figma. So Figma is a 2D software and Parallax is usually a 3D kind of effect, so we're going to be faking it. But first of all, what is parallax? So parallax is the apparent displacement of an object because of a change in the observer's point of view. So what does that really mean? So I've created a few different shapes here to kind of explain what parallax is and what the parallax effect is and how we can achieve it in 2D. As we have no z-axis, we've just got an x and y. So the way we're going to do it is objects that are in the foreground are going to move further than objects in the background, giving you kind of a fake sense of 3D. Because if you were to imagine looking out as far as you could see, and there's some mountains in the background, in the foreground are some trees, and then really in the foreground are some people, and you were to move from left to right, the people in the foreground would be moving faster than those in the background, so the mountains wouldn't be moving much at all. So let's have a look how we're going to do this. So this object here, this rectangle, the largest object, is going to be the foreground, and the smaller the object, the further it is into the background. So if we were to move objects from the centre of the screen to the left of the screen, the larger objects are actually going to be moved further to the left than the smaller. So we have everything's kind of a little bit out of alignment compared to when they're in the centre. And when they're over to the right of the screen, the foreground objects are again further to the right, with the background objects being less so. I've then gone and created a little prototype where we click this object, it then loads this one, and after a short delay it then loads this frame, and then we've got it looping between these two frames, and it's all smart animated. So let's have a look at that. Here we go. So we're now in the prototype, and if I click, what's going to happen is those objects are going to shift to the left and to the right, and it's going to loop, and we're going to see that the objects in the background don't move as far, and it kind of looks a bit 3D. So here we go. So if you look directly at the triangle in the center, you will see it will kind of give you a fake sense of perspective. This is called 2.5D, so it's trying to fake 3D in a 2D space. So how can we use this in our designs? So what we're going to do is we are going to create a little mock-up. In fact, I'm just going to pull, here we go, an iPhone here, and we're going to create a window here with a small scene, and as we swipe or drag through this screen, we're going to create a parallax effect with the image and then load some different items down here. So let's get going. So I'm just going to create a small frame. There we go. Let's make that 450 height and the width of the entire device. Let's do this in 3 stages. So I'm just going to make some breadcrumbs here. So let's make them much smaller than that. Let's make them 24, still quite big. Let's go 16. And if I zoom in a minute, whoops, I'm just holding down Alt here to drag and duplicate. There we go. Let's group those together. Let's remove that fill and add a stroke for those instead. Not a drop down, a stroke. And let's make all of that one color. Let's go. What should we do here? Let's do a blue. There we go, that'll do. And do the same for these two, but on the stroke. There we go. So we've now got our breadcrumbs. Let's add some text. Let's call that title 1. Make it bold. make it 30 from there and 30 from there. I'm not actually following any kind of spacing pattern here, but we should probably do it in multiples of 8. Let's make that 24. Cool. And then let's just add a bit of lorem ipsum or just some placeholder text. I'm just going to pull some from the internet quickly. Or you could use a plugin for this. And let's make that regular. And let's make it 14 seems a bit small, 16, and then let's just change that line height to be 140%. There we go, so that's a bit more readable. Cool, there we go. So that's our first screen made. Let's now go and duplicate that a couple of times. Make sure that's actually inside the frame. So this could be a perfect example of making a UI for an onboarding or an introduction to an app or something like that. Let's just do, oops, just do a quick swap over. Not sure why that's not working. There we go. Whoops. Should be 2, and then 3. Let's swap these two round. There we go. So we've got our screens ready, so we now just need to make our scenes. I'm just going to pull these down, stack them, because our scene's going to be quite wide and it will give us more room to work with. So if I just open up my Finder, I've actually already created some images, or I've pulled some images off the internet I should say, but I've separated them out into different layers and then just saved them out as PNGs. You could do this with SVGs if you would like something a bit nicer, a bit more vectorized, because these are actually quite pixelated, but for this purpose it should work. These are also saved out at the exact same size, so if I just overlay them, there we go, we've got our scene together now. So what we're going to do is we're going to be placing this scene just quickly inside this frame, and we're going to have it move from left to right. So it probably starts somewhere like this, and then in this frame it moves to the middle, and in this frame we'll move it to the right. But we're going to do something a bit better. We're not just going to have everything moving at the same time, we're going to have each of these layers moving at a different rate, so hopefully we get that nice parallax effect. Okay, so we want to do that now. Let's bring that inside our shape here, and let's make that a mask. So we no longer have that rectangle, or do we want the rectangle? Actually, I think we'll keep the rectangle because we've got the frame itself working as a mask. So let's make that rectangle a different color, so it's not so horrible. Or should we keep it white? Maybe we keep the rectangle white, and in fact make the scene itself, let's make it that blue, that might be quite cool. And then we'll come through and make this white, and this also white. Yeah, I think that looks better to me. And let's do the same. Let's do the same for these two as well. So this would have been better if I had had a bit more of a plan before starting this video. Oops. But it's just a bit of the design process as we go. So let's just do this one as well. Let's change all of this. And there we go. So, right, there we go. So we just need to make that and that white now. And let's copy that out and we'll start on the first scene instead, the first frame, sorry. So I'm just going to group all these together quickly, and let's call this Parallax Group, and then move it inside that frame. Change plan, ungroup, and we're going to bring these individual levels in one at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, center this one. And then I'm going to bring this kind of cityscape in, again center it. We're actually going to move this so it's more left aligned, but for just to start with we're just going to do that. And then I'm going to do the same with that one. Decide where I want that to go. I think somewhere like that looks good. And then again center that one. Cool. So we can now come in, grab all of those, copy Command and C, and do the same. Select this frame, copy and paste it in by pressing Command and V, and we'll do the same here. Okay, cool. So we've now got all our different screens, and we're now going to start working on the movement. So remember the background, if I show you from the previous example, the background object moves the least amount, so it's still closest to the center when it's moved to the left. So, and the same when it's moved to the right, it's still closest to the center, and then those foreground objects are moving the most. So we need to apply that same principle to our scene here, which means we want this foreground, which I've numbered 4, to move the most. So we are on our first screen and we want, let's move that right to the left like that. Let's go to the next one. So if we were to move that right to the left as well, so if it's left aligned, that would be a bit too much, but I'm going to start out with moving left aligned, and then I'm going to hold down shift and move it to the right, let's say 5. And then if we grab this layer with the 2, which is the cityscape, do the same, and we're going to move it 10 to the left using shift. So that's actually moving it 100 pixels to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And lastly, grab the clouds. Let's again left align it. And then this time we're going to move it 20, I think, or 15. Yeah, let's go 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Cool. So we can have a quick look at what that will look like if we just hold down Shift E, bring up our prototyping. We don't want instant, we want a smart animate. We want it over a pretty big period of time, so let's make it 800. And let's do a nice ease in and out. And for now we'll just do it on tap. And just for this demonstration we'll do the same, going back the other way. So let's have a quick look. What's loads? Might take a little while for the images to come in. Wow, they really are quite pixelated. So if we do a smart animate, you can see that that foreground is moving much oh yeah, we need to fix that issue there. But the foreground is moving much quicker than the background, and it gives you that kind of cool parallax perspective. What would be nice is if eventually we do this on a drag. So let's carry on working on that. So first of all, I want to fix this issue where I've actually just moved these around and that looked terrible. So just going to hide this a second so I can get hold of these. Swap those around, and we're going to have to do it the proper way, which is remove the fill on that one, add the stroke, and then apply it to this one instead. So add the fill, remove the stroke, and again we swapped, I believe. Just need to show all these again. Why didn't that work? There we go. I believe I swapped these two around last time. Add the stroke. Remove the stroke, add the fill, and colour it white. So let's just make sure that is actually correct now. Shift E into the prototype. Takes a little while to load, especially because I'm using JPEGs or PNGs even. It's got to load those image files as well. There we go, that's much nicer. Cool. So let's have a look. Let's see if we can make that work on a drag instead. On drag, and on drag. So hopefully, yeah, there we go. We've now got a nice kind of swipe motion that you would expect from the phone, and we've got a really cool little parallax effect up here. Let's then go ahead and do the same for the third. In fact, copy the first, no, yeah, copy from the middle because everything's centered. And paste it into that frame. And then what we did last time is we left aligned everything, so we're going to right align everything this time. So I'll just go back to our design, right align. So the top layer was fully right aligned, then the layer after that we right aligned it, and then we moved it 50 pixels to the back to the center. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same for the cityscape behind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 100 pixels. And lastly, the clouds. Right align, and then we did 15, so that is 150 pixels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And we now need to do a on drag from there, smart animate over 800 seconds, and we also need to do one back. Right, I've not actually played around with the same command on drag from the same screen, so I'm not sure if this is going to work, if Figma's smart enough to know if you're dragging left or right. I'm hoping it is, but we shall find out now. Okay, moment of truth. No. Okay, so how are we going to fix this? For the purposes of this prototype, we can do... I know what we can do. Let's delete all of our transitions, and what we're going to do is we're going to have state there, state there. So we're going to go from this state to this state to this state, this state to this state, and this state to this state. So essentially we've just doubled the middle state. Okay, so we want the on drag, 800 milliseconds smart animate, then up to this one, same again, on drag, 800 milliseconds ease in and out. This one will go to this state, on drag, where are you? There we go, and then this one will go to back to 1. So hopefully that makes sense, and we'll test it to make sure it does. There we go. Not sure why. Top tip, which I keep forgetting, if you're going to be working in your prototyping a lot, just don't close it, because then you don't have to do that load each time you make a change, because it will update it. It does like hot updates, which is pretty cool. So let's have a look. Nice. So it's not exact behavior that you'd expect, because you might want to swipe between 1 and 2. But it's pretty cool for this example. We could also go in and add a button. So let's just create a quick button. If you don't know how to make a button in Figma, there's a really cool way that you can do it, and you can do it really quickly as well. So we might as well demonstrate that now. So let's just bring it in, button. What I've done there is I've just created a text layer. I'm now going to add auto layout to that. So you can either, well actually first you've got to frame it, but, well no you don't, you can press Shift A to auto layout, so it's now got a frame. And if we add a fill to that frame, but yeah, white works for this. Let's make that text bold, because buttons should be better. We can bring it in there. Make it a bit bigger. You can see the text isn't centered, so let's do that. Let's go find that text, center that, and in the center. There we go. So let's make this button a bit nicer. So we'll center it in the frame. 24, 24. So let's add. How far off we are? 380. That should be. Yes, nice. There we go. So we now got a button which we can duplicate. Actually, before we do that, let's just finish off this properly. Let's pull this button back out, and we call that button active. We're now going to have a button hover, and then we're going to have a button pressed. And not that we're going to use it in this example, but a button disabled, so just so we've got all the different states. And then if we just come through and do it how do we want this to do? So we could perhaps, what could we do on this one? We could make it, let's just do a color change. So on hover, it changes to blue. When it's pressed, let's just change this to, change the background to just a slight grey, and the button to blue, but we can make it darker blue perhaps, and then disabled we can just make the text grey. Okay, and then if you select all those multiple components, make sure they're named correctly before you do this. So call it button and then / and then the state you want. And we're going to do combine as variants. So now we've got our buttons here. If we go to assets, pull in our button, we just made and drop it in to each one of these. One thing we haven't done is we haven't done our states on this, so let's go Shift E. So that button on hover will smart animate over 200 milliseconds to our hover state. Hover state on tap will smart animate over 200 milliseconds to that, and then that will return to our active state, not on a tap but after a delay, and we'll say, let's say 1 millisecond. So if we go back to our prototype, we will now see, no we won't. Why is that not working? While I figure that out, we are just going to also have it so that you don't have to just drag, you can also click the button to go to the next state. So we're going to do a smart animate over 800 milliseconds, ease in and out. Same for that one to that one. And same from that one to that one. And same from that one to that one. And because we created a new component, I am actually going to close that because that might be what the issue is, and reload it. Here we go. So there we go, it's now loaded. So yeah, that's what it was. We just needed to reload our prototype. So we've got the hover state on the button now, and clicking it will take you to the next section. Obviously you wouldn't expect that button to take you back, but for the purposes of this tutorial, it will. So that's pretty cool. We've now got this parallax. This is a really nice way of doing some onboarding. I've done this in a few projects before, and it's been quite successful, especially when you're kind of explaining new features or celebrating something in the app. Just a nicer way of displaying information. This is probably just aesthetic and not that functional. You could probably find some ways of making it functional, but it is just to add a little bit of polish to the app, which is pretty cool. So let me know what you think. Drop your questions below in the comments, and I do try and respond to everyone. If you have any questions about Parallax or about using Figma or design in general, I'm a professional product designer and have been working as a digital product designer for some of the biggest companies in the world, so hopefully I'll be able to help answer your questions. If you think of some other uses for Parallax that I haven't mentioned in this video, also drop them below. That'd be really cool. I'm sure there's stuff I've not heard of, so I'd be really excited to check that out, but also to share it with the community and grow our design skill sets globally would be really cool too. If you have any other questions about anything else, drop them below. Please like and subscribe to the video, share it with your friends. I'm putting this out for free with the idea of just sharing knowledge to as wide an audience as possible, so the quicker this channel grows the better. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, bye.